God damn it.
I'm leaving tomorrow. Okay. And I feel very unsafe with you guys.
What do you mean? I gave you a Louis Vuitton wallet, I gave you headphones.
Yeah, and if then I don't need your stuff. My issue is like, I know Dad talked to you guys, but like, I'm really not okay with your guys' like racist remarks. And no, first of all, the joke is no. The joke is rooted in racism. No.
This is ridiculous because that's such a lie.
No, Ben, for me, this is like, we either talk about this and there's growth or I don't have a relationship. That's where I'm at right now.
Damn.
And so I take that very seriously. I told parents that. They might disagree with me, but for me, it's not a problem, Ben. It's about treating people, huh? No, well, I'm not the person walking around calling everyone by the N-word. That's in your vocabulary as a white man.
Okay, and in my spirit, I'm a black man. Yeah.
That's not funny.
I'm a homie in my spirit.
That's not cool.
It is cool.
No, it's not.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Wait, how old is Ben? Do we know?
No, it's because it was. That's not helping. That's not helping the situation either. Like
35, 12, 67. Oh.
No. Like no. To me, no. I am traumatized because.
No, you're playing a victim.
No, I'm not. How you talk about other people, there has to be equality to that.
I do have equality.
No, you don't. Okay. Throwing the N-word around as a white person, do you know what the N-word even represents?
I'm sorry. I mean, the family's probably cringe, but I don't know.
My N-word is called, bro.
He walks away.
Yo, come back, man.
He walks away. That's crazy. For me, I already had a lot of conversations with parents about this. What happened the other day is not funny. And the issue is that this has been, this is happening. This isn't new in our family. The remarks and, mom and dad, we talked about this, and whether there's agreements or disagreements with that, being raised the way parents were to look at black people and use the N-word isn't normal. It was normal for them, but it shouldn't be normal. To make jokes about that, I don't care if I'm white and you feel comfortable with me as a sister, I feel very uncomfortable by that. No, Mom, now that's a victim card because I'm calling you higher. And the thing that's crazy is Jesus was not a white person, and I believe it would be the very people like you guys to actually stone him and put him on the cross. Because this little bit, I'm wanting to also have this conversation a little bit with Elijah because you're apparently spirit-filled and saved, so...
This is not what stoned Jesus.
It was, actually.
What stoned Jesus was character, personality, and his way of teaching.
Jesus was a walking, offensive person. Yeah, and he wasn't white. And Jesus wasn't white. So, again, I don't want to argue... yes, that can happen, and I don't want to argue Christianity necessarily.
But then I think racist to black.
No, you just can't be racist, period. Like,
how do I know I'm racist to white people?
I don't know. That's not my conversation right now. Because right now I know you're being racist towards black people. Because
I want to be racist to white people.
See, I'm sorry, Dad.
What did you say?
See, I'm sorry, Dad. It's not my conversation right now. Because right now I know you're being racist towards black people. Because see, I'm sorry.
I want to be racist towards black people? Is that what he said?
How do I know I'm racist to white people?
I don't know. That's not my conversation right now. Because right now I know you're being racist towards black people. Because
I want to be racist to white people? I don't know. Okay, whatever.
See, I'm sorry, Dad. I told you this, and I don't know if you believe me. No. But did you just hear what he said? I want to be racist towards white people. No. That's what he said. But at dinner, he said that I'm racist and I'm proud to be racist. That's what you said to me at dinner. That's what did you not say that?
Everybody is proud of their race.
Stop! Don't twist that. You little snake. Elijah, we were talking. You're a snake. Do you know why? Because in that conversation, you asked the question: if there's a black person and a white person, which one would you shoot? You asked that.
Jesus.
And after that,
whose roots were built on building muscle, physically working.
Are you kidding me?
Slaves, but they physically work.
Whoa! He just went full JonTron. Whoa!
Are you kidding me?
Slaves, but they physically work. Their genetics are a lot more physically fit.
My God.
Obviously, the black person, because he can take me out.
Now we're talking.
After that, you followed that with, I'm racist and I'm proud to be racist.
Because I'm from Russian American.
Stop, you're twisting that. That's not what you meant. You're now trying. And so to me, again, these are just like,
And then I'll be proud of being American racist, superior against other races, in my opinion. Because Americans, we're the best.
no, Elijah, we are not. How America is, if you are proud to be a racist in America today, and I guess to me,
I'm so confused.
if you can't acknowledge how you talk about people being wrong, then I can't have a relationship with you.
Talk about being wrong.
Elijah, you're demeaning an entire group of people. Like, and of course it doesn't affect you because you're white. And mom's praying.
Like I agree that racism is bad, and like we shouldn't have, like, if you want to cut ties with somebody for being racist, I think it's worth having a conversation over. There's got to be a way to do this and not crying about it. I don't know. I don't know, man. Fuck me.
Praying in tongues in the corner. Like, that's gonna do anything in this situation. It's not, because praying in tongues isn't gonna fix racism. No, don't tell me to calm down, Dad. No, oh my God. No, Dad, we never fixed our conversation. We never did. No, actually, it's not enough, because I don't believe you.
Do you think she's being reasonable, but it's just her emotions taking over? I think she just sounds soy, but I don't think she's being unreasonable at all. I think it's totally fine to cut people out if you think they're being super racist or cringe or whatever. I think it's totally fine.
Dad, you said you love all people too.
Angela, I want every race to succeed and prosper.
You guys are like twisting it now. You're twisting it now.
Before God, I want everybody to succeed. I want the best for everybody.
No.
Angela, if I could choose for someone to if there's 50 black people and 2 white people, then I can have a choice. Who lives and I want everybody to live.
No offense. Where was that 2 days ago, Elijah?
I'm sorry. I mean, fair, but it's hard for the average person to disagree with your whole family and cut them off without getting emotional, no? Yeah, but that's not really what we're talking about here. It's more just like the style of argumentation or something. It's just kind of whatever. I don't know.
It wasn't a joke in his demeanor.
No, then that's messed up. You can't joke. I don't know where you got. I don't know. No. You asked the questions. No, you can't.
If I meet a black person,
Oh my
I want
God.
the black person to be more prosperous than me.
I don't believe
want
you.
them to have better health than me. I want him to be better at everything that's going to do. I already have to do it. And if somebody can have better than me, that's a
Is that really worth cutting off your family for? I don't know. I don't talk about this anymore because I realize that some people are just real attached to their family. But if people are making the same like racist whatever types of jokes over and over and over again, I don't know. I think it's cringe. I won't hang out with people for too long if it's like that kind of shit. If you can tell it's like a genuine like hatred type of thing, I don't know. I just think it's super cringe and not funny. You just stop hanging out with them.
To be honest, with these conversations, I don't believe you because you're not taking any accountability. You're just saying it was a joke. You're not.
But like this is like these terms are like way too loaded. Like this, she's like debating like I don't even know. Like we're in class and like you need to take accountability. Like nobody speaks this way in like ordinary human conversations. It's just not a way that people communicate with each other.
Even acknowledging, dang.
Because there was a specific scenario.
There was
this is a specific controlled environment.
Oh my God.
I answered the questions that's again.
No. You asked.
Environment. If 2 people break into my house and I have to kill one of them, and I'm gonna choose the person who's built stronger. No dog.
No, you said you're gonna choose the black person.
Yeah, because
Yeah, Dad, I'm sorry. Like you're asking. Dad, in the nicest way, you're asking for equalness. I will never want to understand his perspective.
Go deeper and go. If I could die for 1 million black people to come and make it to heaven, I would die for this.
I don't. To be honest, after the last couple of days, I don't believe you.
If my health was fine, my friends are going to missions to Africa in 2 weeks. I was like, man, I wish I can go.
Cutting off your family for racism is schizo shit. Not to go too, don't make me go full woke on you. The only way you can say that is if you're unironically like you have like a fuck ton of what you know are super, I don't know, you'd say problematic or whatever beliefs. I think it's super legitimate to not want to hang out around people that continually express views that are just like super disgusting to you. I think that's a very, very, very normal thing. I don't like that it feels like conservatives demand that every single person has to be so respectful of every single part of what conservatives believe in and all this bullshit. But then for some reason they get to just act in the most depraved fucking manner ever when they're around people. Especially growing up it's so weird, especially growing up in a conservative household because, you know, mom and dad will tell you like when you're around different people, you act in different ways, like what's appropriate, you know, with your friends might not be appropriate for teachers or in front of your parents. Like you're supposed to learn this shit, have your home training or whatever growing up. So I don't know. I think it's super fair. Do your parents express those views? Fuck no. I think my parents have horrible policy takes and are super MAGA, ride or die. But like on an interpersonal, cultural, social, or no, I don't know how to say cultural, social, but like my parents are not racist, like in person. Like my mom would be like, she's pro all the deportation shit. She doesn't think Mexicans should be coming into this country because they should stay and fix their own, even though she thinks Cubans are free to swim here or whatever. Like she's against like all trans people operations, whatever the fuck. She thinks it's all fake or whatever. Like that's my mom's policy positions. But if I were to show up with like a black trans non-binary wheelchaired person who's an illegal immigrant from like Haiti or whatever, or Hades or whatever, or Haiti, not Hades, Haiti, or fucking from Hades, I don't know. My mom would just like cook us food and chat with my friend, and that's just how they are interpersonally. But like if my family was like actually like disgusting in person, like racist jokes and everything all the time, I don't think I wouldn't handle it. It would just be gross. I would just stop hanging out with them. But I don't think I would ever give like a speech or anything like this to somebody because they're not likely to change their perspective on things. But yeah.
No, he's bringing God into this. This has nothing. Because
you'd expect to be able to be pretty relaxed with your family, no? Yeah, but if you being relaxed is you being like a disgusting person, I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. Like you have the right to be that way, but like don't expect that every single person in your life has to tolerate it. Like some people might just not want to spend time with you if they view you as like a disgusting person.
Yeah, you're saying I've gone to Africa and I've gone to missions. To be honest, that has nothing. If anything, Elijah, you're saying you've gone to African American countries.
People a different skin color to preach to them.
Yeah.
How am I racist?
You can obviously this.
How are you supposed to have this conversation and have it be productive? I mean, personally, I think just like simple, like, hey, like you guys say this shit, like I think it's cringe. I'm not hanging out with you anymore. Or you just don't even say anything. You just stop showing up. I don't know. That's what I would say.
Proves it because no, you're racist because of the comments you've made. Are you kidding? Like I've been trying to explain them to you. You keep saying it was in a controlled environment. You asked the question. You can't even acknowledge that question was messed up. You keep justifying it. You guys both did. If there was a black person and a white person, you'd shoot the black person because they're black. That's what you said.
Angela, Benny, who's gonna be bigger body?
No. Stop putting thoughts in his head. No, you said if you had to kill the black person and the white person, you'd shoot the black person in a heartbeat because they're black. Yeah, you see? No, but you don't have a problem with that, right? No, I'm asking Benny.
I answer
my question. Don't ask me a question. Answer my question. You don't have a problem with that. No, that's manipulation. You're don't reframe my question. It's a very straightforward question.
It's not how you perceive it.
My whole issue is you guys are saying it was a joke. You can't even not.
If someone came to me and said I was being racist and shit, I would change my behavior to keep them in my life if I cared. Feels simple to me. What if somebody came to you and they said that you weren't being racist enough? Would you be more racist to keep them in your life? Because that would be the equivalent from their end, right? Like, people just aren't going to change their behavior this much.
Exactly.
You think it was serious?
I think, yes, it was serious, but also.
You just said it wasn't serious.
Do you know why it's serious? Do you know why it's serious, Ben? To me.
It's serious because you're making something that it's not.
No.
Benny, do you have black friends that you're very close to?
I have black friends and they want me to say the N-word.
You have black. That's crazy.
Benny, do you have black friends?
I have black friends from New York.
Benny,
New York, they don't play down
do
there.
you have black friends who you're closer with than white friends?
Is it a failure in her delivery of her politics, and that's why it comes off as cringe? Like you want to deliver the same speech to different demographics, right? It just comes off as it just feels a little bit performative and a little bit over emotional, I guess. I don't know how to tell you. I don't know how to explain not to be cringe. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what you want me to say. There were these. We've watched this stream before, right? There were these ads a long time ago in New Zealand for like drunk driving, and I always thought these were like cute, not cringe ways to. I think these were cute.
Oh no, George is driving. He's too wasted. I should say something, but I could look dumb in front of Monique. Bro, Monique says you're dumb, but if he crashes, I'll have to live with his family.
Puzzle time.
And if he dies, Ghost George will haunt me forever.
Grab a chip. Want a chip?
You know I can't grab your ghost chips.
Go away.
Spoon.
Spaceship. Bro, what are you doing, bro?
Oh, I've been internalizing a really complicated situation in my head.
What are you on about?
I don't think you should drive.
Nah.
Nah, you're too drunk, bro. Just crash here.
Yeah, it's crash here. Okay.
Stop a mate from driving drunk. Legend.
That's cute. Oh, that was cute. As opposed to like, do you know that 27% of alcohol-related accidents can be blah, blah, blah? I don't know. Just, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain not to be cringe. I don't know.
No, I don't believe you.
And I do business with black people too.
Are you happy having them in your life? You want?
No, no, he hasn't even answered my questions. No, all I'm asking for is acknowledgement that something was racist, but you're turning it.
I talk to white people.
No. Oh my God, how did this happen?
This guy's black. Oh my goodness, Elijah's white. I don't look at.
We're the issue. We're the issue.
Oh my goodness, it's a human being.
No.
That's how I know.
Well, okay. Now you say that, but 2 days ago you were completely fine with shooting a black person.
You never shot a black person.
Casual messaging as opposed to soy emotional string pulling. Well, these people are probably racist, right? So, I mean, like, are you really gonna win the debate on, like, don't be racist against these people? I don't even know if that's a debate you can win, but she's not even, like, really having that debate on, like, being racist or not. It's basically coming from a position of, like, I'm right, you're wrong, like, you need to grow and change as a person if you want to keep me in your life, and these are the horrible things that you're doing. And, I mean, like, obviously they don't think that, right? They think, well, or they think that they might be racist, but that's okay because their racism is correct. Like, it just seems futile.
No.
We're not talking about that, Angela.
My whole.
We're about a stereotype.
That's the issue. The stereotype is the issue. No. The fact. Oh my God. You are.
But we don't look at black people differently than white people. We look at them
No,
as human beings.
I don't believe you. Your comment, if that's true, why is the N-word in your vocabulary when it offends and hurts? It shouldn't be a joke. It's people like you that enslaved an entire group and population and called them the N-word in a demeaning.
Like, this is, like, just way too much, right? Like, I feel like if you're trying to communicate this to somebody, it's like, bruh, like, when you're fucking hurling racial slurs around here, it makes people feel fucking weird. Especially when you have black friends around. It's weird. This is weird. It feels weird. But, like, you've been part of a systemic oppression of black people and your culture has enslaved them. It's like, this is like, bro, slow down, okay? Slow your roll.
The N-word isn't just an F word.
Enslaved my Filipinos to customer support.
No, the N-word is rooted in white supremacy, racism.
Like Black Lives Matter coming to Portland and just
Oh.
Yeah, it is too much for sure, but them saying that it's a joke for everyone is pretty outlandish, no? No, I think it's actually fine. I agree with the racists in this conversation, bro. I actually think that the racist arguments they're making, I think are actually really strong, and I actually think I agree with all of them. What the fuck kind of question is that?
all of Portland.
My God.
That's the point. That's how it is.
No, Dad, there's no point. There's no point.
I feel like you only get this emotional in this discussion because you've been bottling it up. This is an outburst. It is going to make her family defensive. If you're going to do this, then it needs to be repeated intervention over months. How are you going to intervene against your entire family when if they're racist and you're the only one that's not, though? You can't have an intervention on that. And also, the issue here is not her being emotional. The issue is the style of conversation is just not good for whatever it is she's trying to do. This is not like an issue if she's just emotional. It's an issue of like she's speaking like this is like a Twitter discourse, like, you know, slavery was what made this bad and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, guys, we're never going to agree on this matter, but...
Why are you like phrasing it in a way where we're not listening to you, it's like we're not listening at all.
No, to me...
You're making it something that's really
No, to me, this is like...
All lives matter, white lives matter, black lives matter, the yellows matter, the greens matter. You see the ceiling, it puts a roof over my head, the ceiling matters, this water matters, it goes to my system, gets me muscles, everything matters. Ain't no problems over here. Pretty much it.
This is the issue.
The issue is everything matters.
This is why we have so much hate in the world.
I'm sorry, guys.
People like you guys. No, so, guys, moving forward, we're never going to agree on this. And because of that, I just can't have a relationship. I can't. It would go against... Yes, Dad, because I would rather talk it out now instead of them get a ghosting text then. So if this is where we stand and we can't even have a healthy conversation, yes. No. Let me finish. Please let me finish. Dad.
So you think we're racist, and if we disagree, you start crying.
No. Because I have brought up several examples of racism and that you've used, and you have never apologized. No, let me finish. Let me finish. You haven't apologized. You haven't owned up. No, you didn't. You said all lives matter. That's not an apology. So, no, this subject cannot be avoided for me. This is a non-negotiable for me. No, Dad, no offense. There won't be an every time. I just won't be calling. I will cut you out of my life.
Ooh.
Sure.
Have you ever been racist?
Yes.
How did you address it?
No. Do you know how I was racist? Is growing up, we were.
How did you deal with it?
I apologized. To my friends. I had an entire group of. No. Let me listen. You just asked me an answer. No. You asked me a question, so let me answer it. The way parents were raised racist. Some of that.
Whoa, you're
Shut up for the 5th time.
Yes.
So, Angela,
No. Let me finish.
What do we need to do now to change, in your opinion?
You asked me a question.
Because you changed. You said
Yeah.
you used to be racist.
See, that's a great
And you're
question.
racist and I want to become a better human being.
Well, do you have black friends?
I have people who want to be. Yes,
No.
I do have black friends.
Get yourself around.
I do have black friends.
Elijah. No. Get yourself. Let me finish.
How did you apologize? Explain. Don't tell me what to do. Tell me what you did.
Well, what I didn't do, I didn't. It started, Elijah, with people like me coming to me saying you're racist, and me being you guys saying no, I'm not, and me calling all Mexicans, all Hispanic people Mexican. All of my roommates were from different parts of the world, and I all called them Mexican. No. Let me finish. You keep interrupting. So like, no, saying no, I'm not. And me calling all Mexicans, all Hispanic people Mexican. All of my roommates were from different parts of the world, and I all called them Mexican. No. Let me finish. You keep interrupting. So like, so it didn't happen overnight, and that's crazy. It happens with taking accountability and being like, wow, you're right. 2 people. And I was around people that I did this to. Saying the N-word, there was one time that I didn't even know the N-word was the N-word, and my friend quickly was like, do you know what you just said? And I'm like, no. And they sat me down and explained to me why this isn't just saying the F word. There's so much more to that. That is.
Danny, shut up.
I fixed the problem by having these conversations. No, let me finish. You can't ask me a question, not let me finish. So yeah, again, let me finish.
Shut up.
Oh my gosh.
Shut up.
So it starts with this, but it also starts with you guys both can't even acknowledge. You keep making excuses for, well, that's just a joke. I used to do the same thing. Well, that's not what I meant. They know my heart. That's not the issue. The issue is that subconsciously I'm saying comments that I think are funny that are not funny. Subconsciously I'm saying things about a.
How did you like get out of it? I get it, but how did you like
people like how I'm calling you guys? I allowed people to call me out.
It's just unfortunate because her being a white woman gives her massive debuffs in a convo like this. No, I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is I don't want to get into this. She probably learned about not being racist from a lot of her white friends or black people that she went to school with who live very privileged lives and just haven't experienced much racism, is my guess. That's what it sounds like. And so, but like her heart's in the right place, but I don't think she has like a good way to convey this message to people that doesn't just sound like mega soy. But I don't think it's because she's a woman. I think it's just, I guess it's just where she's learned that concepts at.
Oh yeah, and I would apologize and be like, how can I do better? And I practiced it.
Okay, who do I apologize to?
For starters, you can't even apologize to me.
I did. I came to your room and I apologized.
Elijah, you said I apologize for. No, Elijah said I apologize for being a brother that you could never have. You never said I apologize for making a racist comment because you don't even believe it was racist. No.
I apologize.
No. This is.
Yeah, Joe, I'm sorry for saying.
No, see, and this is where. Sorry, your apology doesn't mean anything to me.
I apologize too because the person I was talking in a hypothetical. If the person was present, I'd be very respectful and I'd find a common ground.
See, that's my issue. Is
That's racist.
No, yes. Because you're saying if a black person was here, I would never use the N-word in front of them. If a black person was here, I would never make that joke. Yeah, that's really messed up.
But the black person laughs with them and he uses it too.
I don't know. I need clarification on that. Because that, as far as I'm aware,
It's because she is a woman, Destiny. If this was a white man crying about his sister making jokes about white men, you would be rightfully siding with the white man. First of all, that doesn't carry 1-to-1 over because it's not like they're making anti-white jokes or whatever. But also, no, I'm pretty sure everybody would be making fun of that person. But okay, dude.
black people,
Black friends
no.
to clarify this too? Or is it your black friends against
It's not just my black friends against his black friends. It's an entire issue culturally. I can't speak on what we have done as a society that's wrong.
What do we do?
Oh
So
Oh my God.
Like, Jesus, kill me. They really tested me today.
I can't ask for forgiveness for my ancestors' sins.
Yeah, but you can do better.
I am.
No, you're not.
I employ Mexicans, Latinos,
Oh my God.
African Americans. I employ them all. I don't care if the price is cheap. I don't care who they are.
I don't think I can continue having this conversation with you guys.
So in order for me to change and stop being racist, I need somebody like you in my life who can tolerate me and deal with me and be the light of Jesus Christ.
No. I have no problem. No. I have no problem teaching someone and educating someone. I will not have a relationship with you just for me to tolerate your BS. To tolerate.
Who else will tell me? How would I check?
If you can't even acknowledge, you keep justifying the fact that it was a joke. You still, in your head, cannot, and this isn't going to happen overnight, but you cannot even, in your little brain, understand that that joke is really messed up and wrong. You should not say that to a white person, me. You shouldn't say that to your family because we're comfortable. You shouldn't say that to anyone. I don't care if I'm your wife. I don't care if I'm your sister. You shouldn't joke around like that.
If I was to, let's say I was a very bad person, which obviously
Jesus Christ. Hold on. Jesus.
I am. And I was a very bad person, and I have made jokes about Jesus.
Okay.
In a laughing manner.
Where is this?
Then I'm around the minister, I'm up and tight, and I'm fine around.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Do you know that? Because you just said that I thought we were having a good time, and if I didn't know we were having a good time, I would have never said that.
It's messed up. Do you know why it's messed up?
Tell me why it's messed up what you said.
It's messed up because if a black person was there,
I think if she wants to convince them, she shouldn't expect to do it in one conversation. If she doesn't want to cut them out, she should let them time to think by themselves and revisit later. Well, there's a way to relate to people on these subjects where you do it kind of like in an empathetic, interpersonal manner, in which case I think almost anybody can immediately understand it, and then they can make the choice on how they want to act. Or you can do it like in this, I'll call this quasi-academic manner. Like as soon as you start invoking like slavery and historical injustices, like you're having a very intellectual conversation now that is away from any kind of interpersonal emotional relationship from one person to the next, and you're going to have to change this person's entire worldview in order to actually convince them otherwise. I actually feel like this is a really good example of like talking about the historical fact. I think is not correct, but like we watched this on stream before. But this is a good. This is a good example of a guy talking about. I don't even think he tells Louis C.K. Whether you should or shouldn't say an explanation. Like for the last half of this, like an explanation like that, I think is like a very personal, like empathetic. Like it's pretty hard to hear somebody give an explanation like that and then go into hardcore debate mode to tell them why they're incorrect on it. I feel like these types of conversations are better to have to convince people to adjust their behavior, rather than like, I'm going to debate your whole sociological worldview right now to tell you why slurs are bad or wrong,
I would have done some big harm in the moment.
But you said you would have never said it in front of the black person. That's the issue. That's the issue. That you're comfortable saying this around white people.
Angela, I make fun of white people, black people, African American people, Russian people.
No.
There isn't a nationality that I haven't made fun of in my life, and I do it to everybody.
No.
Explain to me what race, explain to me what you mean. Now that I don't get that right there. That right there kind of doesn't make sense to me.
And
I make fun of everybody.
Like what that guy's saying is probably true. Right? Like generally these people have no problem being racist to everybody. And if you lean into these like very academic arguments about why racism is bad or whatever else, I think it gets hard to debate these people sometimes on these takes. But I don't know. What are you gonna do?
I make fun of everybody equally.
Okay, can I guys?
I make fun of Christians.
Can we stop?
I make fun of everybody. What do I do in
Dad asked me for examples. I'm gonna give examples because these are the examples that I've seen in our family. Okay, growing up, we have all done this. You're driving past a community and you see, oh my gosh, it's a black neighborhood. Like, that's where нехорошие люди живут. Or at the очень run-down place. You're automatically judging a people just by their skin color. And Dada said it's because of the statistics. So,
Angela, it's because
no.
Because
So
the news programs me for every nationality.
Exactly, and that's issue. If we want to call statistics, My issue is that we're yet again labeling to be afraid of a group of people by their color. Oh, look, черный идет. No. We've said this. You guys have said this. No. You've never said it like that. You've said it. No. You've said it in other ways. Like, смотри, о, черный. Смотри, вот какой-то ненормальный идет.
So let me tell you something. If I'm walking,
That's wrong.
I have something very racist to say.
Oh my
if I'm
God.
walking at night in a black alley and I hear a Russian accent, I'm gonna get very scared because Russian guys have a tendency, and
What
for
the
Russian
frick?
Russian mafia is a big deal.
Where do they live again?
And I'm a race like now that Russian mafia.
What is going on right? Can we pause?
There's a lot.
No, about who?
Dad, we can't.
No. Because he hates white
But
people.
we can't mention the
But you
skin color.
cannot
Dad.
mark all nations. You cannot mark all nations like that.
Yeah, but Dad, there's hate everywhere. But no, listen, there's hate everywhere, but why do we, I've seen this in our family, we talk about black people differently. Dad, you don't drive, I've never heard you drive past a white neighborhood and been like, oh, a lot of white people live there. That must be a really bad neighborhood.
Do you think systemic-based issues should be graded down into a more everyday or relatable worries presentation? For example, rather than slavery, focus on how they'd feel about something. Yeah, I think the issue is that people don't experience things as classes. Even when there is like a class-wide oppressive thing, you don't really have the experience of an entire class. It's not how nobody perceives things. So like having more relatable real-life examples, I think is a better way to relate to somebody, especially because it becomes really, really, really hard to argue against those. Because usually you're just talking about how it makes somebody feel shitty interpersonally. And generally we don't want to make people feel bad unless we feel like they've done something that has earned them feeling bad. And yeah, I think that direction is a better way to relate to people and to get them to chill out on stuff. If you're trying to get them at least to change their behavior a little bit, not necessarily all their thoughts or whatever, but
You drive past a black neighborhood and you're like, oh, that's a black neighborhood. That's wrong.
I have something to say.
We're part of the issue.
Our ghetto. Hold on. You
God.
just judged us.
What is going on right now?
Our ghettos. Hold on.
No, this is like psychotic
You just
behavior.
said something super racist yourself.
okay. Introducing GPT 5.5, a new class of intelligence for real work and powering agents, built to understand complex goals, use tools, check its work, and carry more tasks through to completion. Wow. Read comments. Her next move should be to warn all black people in her family's life. Jesus Christ. Not gonna lie, when people say white women are most of the issues with racism, I completely disagree. White women will be the first ones to choose good over evil. She can't even get a word in to actually try to educate them. Jesus. Okay, whatever, I'm good. Do you think David did it? David is absolutely innocent. My fellow Twitch streamer. Can't believe they banned him.
There was always going to be fragmentation in a second term of a presidency because whoever is the uniting figure is no longer going to be the uniting figure 3 years from now. And so people inside that broader kind of movement start to look at, okay, who's the next guy? What is the next thing that's going to happen? And in the Republican Party, where there's pretty significant debate between a wide variety of wings on a lot of these matters, that is breaking out into the open. I don't find any of that particularly shocking. The only thing that I do find shocking is some of the sort of conspiratorial nonsense that has been promoted by some of these major influencers.
Welcome to Raging Moderates.
Oh no. Okay, come on, Scott. Don't let my fears come true that you're way too much of a slopulus sometimes.
Scott Galloway.
And I'm Jessica Tarlov.
Today, we're joined by one of the most influential voices. I don't even say on the right. I'll just say one of the most influential voices. Also, I'm just an enormous fan of Ben. And we were just saying off mic, it's weird that we haven't met before. And
Okay, off to a weird start, but okay.
Really don't always, I hate the land acknowledgement of saying I don't always agree with him, but I don't. But I appreciate the moral clarity and just the reasoning, and literally the last person I would ever want to see on the other side of a stage in a debate. He's been a forceful defender of the Iran war.
I think you'd love to see him on the other side of the stage in a debate, because that means that you're 19 again, because he must be debating at a college campus, no?
It the single bravest foreign policy move of his lifetime. And even as the ceasefire hangs in the balance and visible fractures begin to emerge within the MAGA coalition, we thought the best guest to have here would be, of course, Ben Shapiro, host of The Ben Shapiro Show and co-founder of The Daily Wire. Ben, it really is a real pleasure to have you. Thanks for being here.
No, Scott and Jessica, I really appreciate you having me. It's very kind of you. And of course, I've listened to your show for a long time as well. So
if you aren't,
I swear to fucking God, this guy's kippa thing is getting larger. It's going to encompass his entire head at some point. I swear to God, it's getting larger.
And Jessica, I really appreciate you having me. It's very kind of you. And of course, I've listened to your show for a long time as well. So
if you aren't already, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page to stay in the loop on all news politics. So let's get into the news of the day, and then we'll zoom out and talk a little bit about the state of affairs in D.C. and between the parties. We're just hours before the ceasefire deadline, and the U.S. and Iranian officials both sending mixed signals, naval confrontations escalating in the Strait of Hormuz, and peace talks hanging on by a thread. The question now isn't just how this ends, but is the conflict already reshaping American power, the Republican Party, MAGA, and the broader global order? Just yesterday, dozens of veterans were arrested for protesting the war at the Capitol. You've called this war a defining act of strength. I'm curious, give us your sense of the state of play here, and drill down as deep as you want or pull back as far as you want, but sort of Iran question mark, your thoughts.
Sure. I mean, it's obviously very difficult to kind of summarize where we are in terms of this moment, because we don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure anybody knows outside the president of the United States and the Iranians on the other side of the table. And so sort of operating through a glass half darkly here, it's difficult to sort of foresee what's going to happen next. The reason that I think that this is a defining act of clarity and moral action on behalf of the administration is that the Iranian Islamic Republic has been a thorn in the side of the West since its establishment in 1979. It is responsible for the death of hundreds, if not thousands, of American citizens. It has spread its terror tentacles all over the region. It has indeed spread its terror tentacles beyond the region. It was building up a nuclear weapons cache. It was also building up a massive ballistic missile arsenal that was capable of generating an umbrella that would have protected the incipient nuclear program from some sort of defenestration by the United States or by Israel or by any other Gulf allies. And so for the president to essentially say to the Iranians that no longer will you be able to call America's bluff on this and sort of sweet talk us into a North Korean style slide into an armed nuclear state that is now immovable with significantly more reach abroad than North Korea does. Right? We don't think too much about North Korea these days because unless North Korea is exploding a bomb in an attempt.
Do you see a future where Ben becomes a never Trump Republican? All these motherfuckers will, probably after the midterms. That's my guess.
To sort of leverage the world into paying it money. They don't seem to pose too much of an external threat, maybe to South Korea, but not much beyond that. Iran is a very different story. Iran has created chaos in the region all the way across from Iraq through Syria into Lebanon, down south toward Yemen, via Saudi Arabia. They have created chaos they have bases in South America. Iran has much more external aspiration than the North Koreans ever did. You arm that regime with a nuclear weapon, and suddenly the possibility of true global conflict gets extremely, extremely severe. And so the president saying that he does not trust that future presidents are going to take the threat seriously, I think he is correct in that. And the move along with the Israelis to go after Iran's defenses, to take out their air force, to take out their navy, to seriously damage their ballistic missile capacity, and to do it while the Iranian economy was basically on its last footing. I think it was a unique target of opportunity. And again, I think the way that I'm explaining it is a bit different from the way that the president has explained it. I think there are probably reasons for that we can discuss. But I think that there are a few sort of preconditions that the American people tend to think of with regard to war that I tend to think are wrong. But unfortunately, I think that the war tends to be explained in those terms, and that leads to some confusion. So, for example, when the president says they were an imminent threat, people tend to think imminent threat means that a plane was about to fly into a building in New York City. The more accurate term here would have been preemptive war, but of course, we're not allowed to talk about preemptive war in the aftermath of Iraq. The same thing is true with regard to discuss. But I think that there are a few sort of preconditions that the American people tend to think of with regard to war that I tend to think are wrong. But unfortunately, I think that the war tends to be explained in those terms, and that leads to some confusion. So, for example, when the president says they were an imminent threat, people tend to think imminent threat means that a plane was about to fly into a building in New York City. The more accurate term here would have been preemptive war, but of course, we're not allowed to talk about preemptive war in the aftermath of Iraq. The same thing is true with regard to regime change. This is not technically a regime change.
Why, though? I don't think there's anything wrong, by the way. This might be international law, not okay, but like, I don't think there's anything wrong with preemptive war as a concept. I don't think Americans necessarily have even a problem with preemptive war as a concept. I think the issue is preemptive war where we've been lied about the conditions going into it. I think that was more the issue that people had. If it was the case that Saddam Hussein was actually, like, if we uncovered some stockpile of weapons of mass destruction and all this shit, I think a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, fuck him, let's go. But the issue was that seemed to be a fucking lie. That seemed to just be completely and totally fucking not true. So people obviously had very strong feelings about that, and I think those feelings were justified, that it was not okay.
War, but it is a slow-rolling regime change war in the sense that the damage done to the Iranian economy does put that regime in significantly more deteriorating position than they were before the war, and they were in serious trouble before the war. And the president doesn't want to talk about regime change because that would necessitate certain activity because of the attempt to deliver on that would then require activity he doesn't want to do, like boots on the ground. So again, I think that what's actually happening and the disconnect between that and what is rhetorically being sold is pretty severe. And I can understand why people's heads are spinning along those axes. But the notion that Iran is somehow strengthened after its entire upper echelon has been destroyed, after its air force is non-existent, after its navy is essentially non-existent, and after it's been forced, I think is an act of weakness, to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which cannot and will not, I think, last for very much longer. If that's what it's been relegated to, and its terror arms have been defenestrated in places like Lebanon and places like Syria, this is a much weakened Iran regime. And in that aspect, I think the president has done something truly incredible here.
So I think there's a lot of merit in the arguments that this is a unique moment in time, an opportunity. The air defense is totally destroyed. The IRGC seem to be wobbling. The idea of further diminishing their ability to fund terror across through their proxies across the region, taking out their navy, diminishing their missile infrastructure, all of these things, check. How would you respond to the notion that this entire conflict or war demonstrates or defines operational excellence but strategic incompetence? To not anticipate the Strait of Hormuz being seized by the Iranians, to not have a plan for getting expats out of the region, for not anticipating that these military bases would become a target. I think more missiles have been fired into the UAE than into Israel. I think it's hard to argue that that Iran isn't weakened. I worry that the reputation of the U.S. has been weakened because this has been the operation itself at a strategic level has been so mishandled. Your thoughts?
So I kind of object to the idea that the operation itself has been deeply mishandled. I think we're not going to know the answer to that until after the war is over, because obviously the outcome of war is what determines whether we thought it was well fought. I think if you had stopped World War II in 1942, you would have thought, okay, things are going really, really poorly. So the outcome of a war determines whether or not the American people like it and whether the world takes away from it a particular message, and that's true of every war. And so, it's hard to sort of forecast what the eventual impact will be until we get to the end point. The notion that the Strait of Hormuz was unforeseen, I find it hard to believe that no one in the Pentagon foresaw the possibility of the Iranians firing drones at large-scale tankers that don't move very fast through a very narrow...
Do you think Ben cares more about America or Israel? America 1 trillion%. But he obviously is a huge fucking, for whether because he's Jewish or whatever, he's a huge Israeli simp as well, though. Or Israel simp as well, right?
Choke point. My guess is that the United States military probably thought that was a counterproductive move for the Iranians to take, that if they did that, they would eventually end up cutting off their nose to spite their face and destroying their own capacity to import and export, the only thing keeping their economy alive, because they don't have the ability to export oil to the East. And in fact, that is what's happened. And I think that what President Trump did here in sort of reverse blockading the Iranian ships, the weirdness at the beginning of the war is that the United States was allowing Iran to ship in and out oil in order to keep the oil prices down. That was the strategic incompetence to me, if anything. It seems to me that if we had from the very beginning said Iran is not getting a thing in and it's not getting a thing out, and they are going to abide by the same rules that they have dictated to everybody else, the most damaging thing the United States has done to Iran at this point is probably not even the military barrage.
I think if we had to stop a nuke from hitting Israel by redirecting it to Baltimore, he would. I mean, maybe, but it's a bad example because like nuking one place in Israel is probably going to blow the entire country up. Whereas Baltimore has a lot of black people, he'd probably be happy to see. I'm just kidding.
That has been unleashed on Iran.
If you're a true Israeli simp and you love Israel that much, then you live in Israel. That's where those people go. Okay.
Or even the killing of its leadership. What's happening right now in preventing Iran from exporting something like $400 million worth of oil every single day is devastating to the regime, a regime that was already on its last legs economically. The rial is trading at zero right now. I mean, they literally do not have a currency that is worth, it's not even close to worth its paper. It's not worth a ton of paper at this point. And so, you know, again, I think that if there was anything that was sort of unforeseen here, I think the only thing that was unforeseen, and I think it should have been foreseen, if the question is sort of what is the mistake here, I think that the mistake is the belief that a rational actor would emerge on the other side to take the sort of Venezuelan position. And I think that may have been a misread. But I don't think that that's a misread of the Strait of Hormuz as much as it is a misread of the intent of the Ayatollahs, which is to retain power at any cost up to and including the slaughter of vast numbers of its own citizens, the complete starvation of its population, and the belief that as long as they just outlast, that they will win. And this is sort of the weirdness of the modern era, is that you never will get a surrender on paper from anyone ever again. And so if the rule is the only way that the West wins is if the other side cries uncle, it's not possible for the West to win a war probably ever again.
It strikes me that one of the examples of how this could have been better handled is if we had at least briefed Congress. The administration had briefed Congress, perhaps even enlisted a couple European allies who have a vested interest in the free flow of navigation, and at least from a perception standpoint, been more tightly integrated or coordinated with our Gulf allies. It feels
Why are
like
you starting to care about the U.S. more? Because if he cared about Israel more, he just moved to Israel.
like we are a bit sequestered on the global stage and being seen acting unilaterally and somewhat recklessly. Do you see any merit to the notion that we would have really benefited having at least attempted to enlist or include some of our allies in the Gulf and in Europe and at least briefed Congress?
I find that kind of hard to support just empirically, meaning that George W. Bush, for example, in 2003, had a very large coalition of the willing. Yep. And that amounted to precisely 0 points in favor of public action beyond the point where the insurgency began. So, you know, I think that, again, the outcomes of wars tend to tell whether we think they were good or bad. Also, the Europeans have shown themselves to be utterly feckless on this particular matter. I mean, I'm kind of astonished at the fecklessness of the Europeans.
Oh, sorry, my bad. You're right. Nick's magician corrected me. No, he can help Israel more from the U.S. That's why he's here. You're giving the three-head take. Correct. It's because they have to stay in the United States to be agents of Israel from afar.
To be frank with you, and I, who have been a strong, thoroughgoing supporter of funding for Ukraine, I continue to support American funding for Ukraine.
The reality is most Jews that live in Israel fucking hate Jews that are diasporoids that don't return to Israel, that are still living in other countries. Like, they want to come home. They want to be part of Israel, make their shows and podcasts and whatever the fuck else there. Benny Boy obviously loves Israel, but I think at the end of the day, he's more with America than Israel, and he wants the interest to remain as aligned as possible. But I don't ever see him saying, like, we should pull the self-destruct switch on the U.S. to save my country or whatever. My country of Israel.
Resisting Russian aggression. It's certainly made me think a little bit differently about the European countries who have been caterwauling at us about this, given the fact that, again, the Strait of Hormuz impacts their commerce significantly more than it impacts our commerce. And yet they have been unwilling to do anything other than stand on the sidelines and scream about how terrible the United States is. So as far as informing Congress, specifically thoroughgoing supporter of, to be frank with you, and I, who have been a strong, thoroughgoing supporter of funding for Ukraine, I continue to support American funding for Ukraine resisting Russian aggression. It's certainly made me think a little bit differently about the European countries who have been caterwauling at us about this, given the fact that, again, the Strait of Hormuz impacts their commerce significantly more than it impacts our commerce. And yet they have been unwilling to do anything other than stand on the sidelines and scream about how terrible the United States is. So as far as informing Congress.
Well, why though? The U.S. has been bullying and attacking all these fucking countries. I don't know.
I think that the level of distrust, this goes to sort of some systemic.
I just think, bro, he's literally doing the worst case scenario right now. He's letting America kill itself right now to fund this retarded war. Not really. Fucking with Iran is like kind of a standard neocon take. Like the neocons have fucking hated Iran forever. It's not, you don't even really need like some Israeli simp bullshit to think that any kind of regime change fucking with Iran is a good thing. Obviously that is a factor in his rationale, but I mean, like hating Iran and thinking Iran needs to be fucked with is not, you don't have to have some allegiance to Israel to feel that way.
Issues in the United States more broadly. The level of distrust that currently exists between the political parties makes it very difficult to do basic functions. And I think this is one of those areas where you can see that happening. I think that the Trump administration, justifiably or unjustifiably, probably believed that if they had actually gone and briefed Congress, that there was a good shot that would have been in the New York Times the next day.
What a fucking retarded fucking statement. What a stupid fuck statement.
To be fair, just around the notion of feckless, with respect.
I'm sorry, you can't. That can't be the. That can't. Scott isn't going to push him because we're in the friendly style interview. Like, I'm sorry. So just to be clear, the president doesn't have to inform anybody anywhere about any of his plans ever because it might leak to the media. That's the new rules for the presidency. That's a joke. That's not a very unserious statement. That's not a real statement. That's some stupid thing that you put in a fucking TV show.
Back to Ukraine, and you and I share a viewpoint on Ukraine. I would argue the Europeans have stepped up while Americans
I agree.
have cut and run.
So I agree with the Europeans on Ukraine. I disagree with the Europeans that they should tell us that we need to foot a gigantic bill for Ukraine, which again I'm fine with, while at the same time saying, how dare you do this thing that, I mean, if you're going to negotiate, the bottom line in any negotiation has to be the possibility of an iron fist under the velvet glove. If the iron fist never exists, then the velvet glove means nothing.
Yeah, so you've said a few things that I wanted to touch on. You said if the West is ever going to win a war again, and this loops into what you were just talking about with Scott, the West as a bloc does not function anymore. And various pieces of it decide which war they're into and which they are in. If it's a surgical strike, we're all for it. If it's not, maybe we're going to be against it. You have Europe dependent on oil from bad actors and very slow rolling, getting off of that kind of dependency, which is underpinning a lot of what we're seeing now. And it feels increasingly like we are alone in this, plus Israel. And I wanted you, if you could, to define where you think our interests are versus Israel's, like where they're aligned and where they aren't, and what you make of all the reporting surrounding how we did end up deciding to go and do this. You know, the New York Times reporting on Bibi Netanyahu being in the Situation Room and making the pitch. And we know from people who have worked in past administrations that...
if this was any other regime and Obama or Joe Biden had been informing or talking to a foreign leader about an attack that we were going to make on a country before informing our own Congress, these guys would be losing it. They would be losing their fucking minds on this. Calling for investigations, that this is basically treason, that...
Netanyahu has tried to convince at least Presidents Obama and Biden to do this, and according to the reporting, they just never took the bait on it. They did not think that the quote-unquote imminent threat was enough to be able to do this, and Iran has been a few weeks away from a nuclear bomb since we've been hearing from Netanyahu. So could you talk a little bit more about where you think our interests are and Israel's and how that impacts our ally relationships?
Well, sure. I mean, I think that our allies are constantly pitching us on things that they would like us to do, and sometimes we say yes and sometimes we say no. Ukraine obviously would be a good case in point of an ally that's been pitching us for a very long time. Sometimes we say yes, sometimes we say no. I'd prefer that we say yes.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. We know that. The question was, why did we say yes this time to Israel when we didn't in the past, right?
More often with regard to Ukraine. And there has been a divergence of interest. There's always a divergence of interest unless you're calling for unconditional surrender of a country, I think
we tried that the first time.
Yeah,
when Trump came out and he said it's going to be 24 hours and it's unconditional surrender.
Right, exactly. But, again, I filed that alongside some of his other tweets that overstate, I think, the extent to which the tweet is reflective of the policy.
It's just epic tweets. Epic tweet. Epic tweet.
But if you're talking about, the fact that allies in the United States don't necessarily have the same endgame, I think that's been true in pretty much every conflict, actually. I'm sure that when we were working with the South Koreans against the North Koreans, the idea was not going to be that we leave the North Koreans in power and north of the parallel. And I think that's been true in pretty much every conflict. So,
what is that example? Well, the point of intervening on behalf of South Korea was to protect the South Koreans from being completely and totally destroyed, right? Like, I'm pretty sure we were aligned in interest there. And I'm sure that he's talking about like a failure of like total mission success, not a total misalignment in goals. Oh my God.
The idea that the Israelis were lobbying for the United States to get involved. I don't find that particularly surprising, considering, of course, it would be better for Israel for us to get involved. That doesn't mean it would be worse for the United States if we were to get involved. That's sort of the case that I'm making here. It seems that it would be worse for the United States to let a target of opportunity pass us by, and then 2 years from now, Iran not only has a nuclear weapon, Iran also is re-strengthening its terror proxies in the region and launching action against not just Israel, but all of our Gulf allies. I mean, whenever we talk about it as U.S. and Israel, we should note here that Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Bahrain are all on the side of the United States and Israel, which is sort of a historic thing. I mean, I'm old enough barely to remember that in the Gulf War, it was the United States telling Israel not to get involved in the Gulf War and fire back against Iraq when they were being hit with Scud missiles simply to avoid alienating our Gulf allies. So the fact that you have everybody on the same page actually is kind of a new form of alliance and sort of shocking in many ways. As far as again, the divergences of interest, listen, I'm sure that the Israelis would love it if the United States were to drop 20,000 troops into Tehran today and try to take down the regime directly. I don't think that that's in President Trump's interest. I don't think that's in the United States' interest. I've said that repeatedly. And so the sort of gap in means and methodologies and interests very much exists. By the way, there's a gap with regard to the Strait of Hormuz on the other side. So to just take a quick example, it matters 0% to Israel whether the Strait of Hormuz is open.
Right.
Right, Israel does not get its oil from the Strait of Hormuz. It's very much in the United States' interest to open the Strait of Hormuz. Is that gap in sort of endgame somehow indicative of a lack of alliance? I think not. So, the notion, I do object to the notion, because the president has said it over and over and over, that Israel somehow wheedled him into this. The president, it turns out, is very capable of not being wheedled into pretty much anything he wants to do. And the president is even capable of cramming down deals on the Israelis or actions on the Israelis they don't particularly like. That's happened multiple times over the past couple of years.
Though?
It recently happened, for example, I think, to a certain extent with this Lebanon ceasefire, which I think the president really pushed for in a way the Israelis were not particularly happy with. I think the same thing happened at the end of the 12-day war when actually the final missile that was fired was an Iranian missile. It hit Israel. Israel had planes in the air to retaliate, and the president told the Israelis to stand down.
Yeah, that's definitely true. You saw a change in attitude from the president towards the Israelis probably starting 4 or 5 days ago, where he basically just said, like, you stop it, and I'm going to do what I want to do, and you have to play by our rules. But that was a marked shift from the first 5-6 weeks of this conflict.
I'm not sure that that's the case, in the sense that I think that the Israelis knew from the very beginning that the president is a volatile person.
Yes.
With regard to decision making, and so sometimes interests would align, and sometimes interests would not align. So I think that's been gamed into the system.
Frustration on the part of the president with how this is going, whether it was something that he concocted in his own mind or that he was told by Bibi Netanyahu or Pete Hegseth, who was very enthusiastic about this conflict. And it sounds like there were, high-ranking officials like General Kane who were more concerned about things like the Strait of Hormuz and that this might require boots on the ground, that there has been a shift because he's facing a world in which he has a 37% approval rating. Gas is over $4. There's predictions like Kalshi has, a blue tsunami coming for the midterms. And that's because people here at home overwhelmingly don't approve of this conflict. They're paying more for it, and no one has bothered to ask them whether they wanted to get into it in the first place.
So a few things to say here. One of the reasons that I say that what the president is doing is an act of political bravery is because bravery requires risk. If you do a thing because the polls say it's popular, that is not particularly brave. The president doing a thing that needs to be done in spite of the polls not being particularly good seems to me far braver than if you...
Bro, this is the ultimate mental gymnastics, right? Like, Donald Trump is doing things that the American public finds not popular. Let me explain why that's actually really good. It's actually super admirable. That's actually the best thing, is that his popularity is decreasing because it shows that he's really doing what is right.
Or to do the thing and the polls were to be mind-bogglingly excellent. So there's that. As far as the blue wave that is to come...
Keep in mind that for all these fucking people, the number one defense they all had of Donald Trump was literally that he's a master communicator and messenger, and he might not be the best on, all the nitty-gritty of everything, but at the very least, he's good at messaging to the base and, deal-making and all those other things. So how is he doing things now that are so morally righteous and good, but he can't fucking communicate any of it to his own fucking political base? Isn't that kind of weird?
And I think that this is an off-year election. The president was relatively unpopular before the Iran action. It was pretty well in play that the Republicans were probably going to lose the House, and they probably weren't going to do particularly well in the Senate while still holding the Senate. I noticed that the date is currently the middle of April. We are about 1,000 news cycles from the election. I do not think this war is going to be ongoing by the time we hit late summer, which is when people really start to pay attention for the midterms. And so I think that anybody who is sticking their finger in the wind about whether to pursue a conflict that ends with the defenestration, we would hope, of a true threat to the United States with an eye on an election that is multiple months away based on polls today, I think that would be a misapplication of political acumen. As far as the, sort of his frustration, listen, the president is frustrated if things don't happen immediately. But his frustration seems to be far more, if you take a look at his Truth Social, his frustration is far more with people who seem to be ignoring the great military successes of the war, the fact that people are mirroring Iranian propaganda as though Iran is somehow winning the war, which again, there is no stretch by which you can make the case that Iran is winning the war. Unless your standard is Iran is still there, the government of Iran is still there, which again, as I say, that's a pretty high bar. There is no standard by which Iran is winning. And so I think the president, you can see, is quite frustrated with the idea that he's doing a thing that other presidents have promised, which is to get rid of the Iranian nuclear program, to prevent their funding of terrorism abroad and spreading their terror tentacles. And
like, I'm sorry, these are like Hassan tier arguments that he's making right now. Like, he's dealing with the worst straw men and then batting them down like he's making good arguments. Like, when people are acting like, Iran is winning the war, and I don't even know how to... Nobody's acting like that. What they're saying is that there's a possibility that because Trump has bungled everything so much, Iran actually comes out stronger from this conflict than before. Nobody gave a fuck about the Iranian fucking Navy or how many air forces or whatever you bombed. It's the idea that you're talking about potentially alleviating every single sanction on the country and bringing them back into the entire world economy and letting them toll the Strait of Hormuz or whatever. We don't even know what the final deal for that's going to look like. Like, he's knocking down the worst, the dumbest of arguments here.
Their continued threat to, again, not just Israel, but Gulf allies in the region. And he's very, very frustrated with that. I'd say he's more frustrated with that and with, people on sort of what I've called the grievance party right, or undermining him from inside the Republican Party, than he is frustrated with, quote unquote, how the war is going. Listen, would he love for the Iranians to come to the table and give up the ghost? Sure. But I think that the notion that he is deeply frustrated with either Israel or the military, or that the war itself, he wishes he could go back in reverse time, I see no evidence of that.
Do you worry that we're going to see a further erosion in support for Israel? Because I believe the Trump administration did not handle the narrative well and let this perception that the tail was wagging the dog with respect to the comments you made earlier that Israel somehow had bullied the president into the war. Are you worried, as I am, that Israel is going to lose even more support in the U.S. as the perception is we've been dragged into this war by Israel?
Obviously, the numbers are what the numbers are, and to notice that the numbers on Israel for Americans have been going the wrong way for a while would be to ignore the reality. I will say that if the bargain is that if to speak as an advocate for the pro-Israel position, from my position, if Israel is safer and the United States is safer and the poll numbers are worse for the foreseeable future, then that is a deal that is well worth making. And to me, it seems that the slide in support for Israel did not begin with this current war, nor did it begin with the 12-day war. The slide for support in Israel became almost immediate with October 7th. If the notion is that the only way that you are popular, that the pro-Israel position is somehow popular, is if Israel simply...
Does anybody have a link to the SPLC indictment from the DOJ? This is what I'm doing on Harry Cole. They wanted to move it up to 4, so I'm going to do this soon. I should read these. I want to read the indictment.
Accepts having the hell beat out of it and suffering threats on multiple fronts, or fighting a fantasy war that is completely antiseptic and free of casualty, then I'm not sure that that's living in a world of reality either. I would prefer, this is true for the United States, it's true for Israel, it's true for all of our allies. I prefer victory in unpopularity to defeat in popularity.
Well, you are just pulling the aperture back more broadly with respect to Iran, but just how Trump approaches foreign policy. What you would describe as bravery and leadership, I'm empathetic to, but I see that it's sometimes arrogance and recklessness. And that is, I see us since 1945 as having alliances with and largely setting the tone and being the operating system for about 2/3 of the West's GDP. That, loosely speaking, Europe and South Korea and Japan might hum and haw, but they basically joined us kind of even reluctantly, sort of arm in arm in most major conflicts. Freedom of navigation, our rules, dollar-denominated currency. And I would argue that the president has essentially gone from a majority control position geopolitically to a minority control position, and has said to the 1/3 that we used to be allies with, you have to find your own way. You have to pay for your own security, which I agree with, but has unnecessarily alienated them, whether it's talks of invading Greenland, whether it's sclerotic tariff policy. What would you say to the notion that the president has gone from a majority position and sort of, without any upside, alienated and created sort of a third leg of the stool that used to be kind of arm in arm with us?
So I think that that's true to the extent that we're talking about Greenland and Canada and tariff policy. I opposed his tariff policies because I thought they were blunderbuss, and I thought that they were not targeted in any specific way, and it was unclear what the purpose of them was, other than what seemed to me to be a misapprehension about how economics works, frankly. That we become richer when we tariff other countries just by necessity, which is not the way that it works. I agree that, listen, I think that Pierre Poilievre would probably be the prime minister of Canada right now if the president had not decided to launch a tariff war on Canada. And I think that attempting to make a case for invading Greenland is not exactly designed to win friends and admirers in Europe, nor is J.D. Vance's speech in Europe designed to win friends and admirers in Europe.
But,
as opposed to, by the way, the Secretary of State's speech, Marco Rubio, who actually I thought gave a pretty excellent speech in Europe. So I agree from a sort of rhetorical level and on some of those policies. When it comes to what I think, again, are true threats to America and our interests abroad, there we have to pursue our interests, and allies, if they were good allies, would help us out in the same way that we've helped out Europe with regard to Ukraine, and as I say, should have been helping Europe more with regard to Ukraine. I will say that I think there are two sides to this particular story. The fact that the response by Europe has been, in some cases, to try to make overtures to the Chinese. I think it's foolish of us to alienate the Europeans such that they make overtures to the Chinese. I think it's even more foolish of the Europeans to, in short-term thinking fashion, try to make overtures to the Chinese. I think the same thing is true of the Canadians. The Canadians, instead of looking 3 years down the road and thinking, okay, policy is very likely to change, trying to reorient toward sort of friendliness with China seems to be a bizarre move at best, and a counterproductive move for the West. So what I would say is I don't like a lot of the policies you're talking about, and also it takes two to tango, and I would prefer that both sides stop tangoing on separate lines on these particular matters.
It's definitely a both sides issue.
Would you describe the U.S. as a good ally right now?
I think that the U.S. has always been a bit of an unreliable ally, shall we say.
Like this?
I think that
what's
the
the example?
States,
What's the comparison?
Since probably the end of the Cold War has been, at best, an intermittently decent ally. We've taken a very vague view with regard to Taiwan, for example. The Kurds.
Taiwan is what we're comparing Canada to? Is Taiwan?
Might have something to say about the nature of our alliances with them in the past. Hong Kong might have something to say about this.
My God,
the reality is that I don't think it's unique to President Trump. I would say that it depends which allies you're talking about. I don't think that the Brits were particularly taken. Some members of the British government, you might say, when Barack Obama removed the statue of Churchill from the Oval Office, that wouldn't exactly be like a wonderful sort of overture to the Brits. The same thing is true. I mean, I can tell you the Israelis would not be particularly happy with Barack Obama as an ally. The Saudis were not happy with Joe Biden as an ally. So I think it depends which allies you're talking about when. But yes, I think that I wish that the United States had a more constant and durable foreign policy that made us a more reliable ally.
Like the comparisons he's making are, if we've had differences in takes on foreign policy or whatever else, like there's U.S. reasons why there might be some kind of like schism here between our interests or whatever in terms of, how we feel like the Middle East should look, even if it might be a thing that upsets Saudi Arabia, or how we feel like, I don't even remember the other examples he gave. Like there are reasons here for why we're doing these things. I don't know what the reason was for why we're alienating Canada and Greenland from the United fucking States. It's like not even, I don't know how you compare these two things. And then like trying to pretend that like Taiwan and our relationship with them, or Hong Kong, that these people are supposed to be on the same footing as our European allies is.
I think if we did that, then we'd have a lot more friends in the world.
But Ben, hold on. You're a smart guy. You don't think that this is a little bit different?
Thank you.
We're unnecessarily alienating.
Yeah, thank you. Jesus, one pushback question. Finally, fuck.
Allies for us.
Thank you.
Oh, no, I do. I mean, I just said that I think that the tariffs and Greenland policy and Canada policy is unnecessarily alienating.
I'm just the tariffs.
Pointing out
that he said the tariffs. He said the tariffs, yeah. Also, I think attacking all of NATO, also, yeah, kind of. Shitting on Europe, also, kind of, yeah.
talk about unnecessary alienating, the Biden administration coming in and making its chief focus Jamal Khashoggi and the dereliction of the Saudi government and alienating the Saudis to the extent that the Iranians saw an opening was a huge mistake. And so, again, this is not both sidesism because I think both sides are bad. Both sidesism is where I say that it's okay.
I mean, the condemning Saudi Arabia on murdering a journalist and then cutting his body up and taking it out of an embassy, I think is probably a worthwhile thing to criticize them over, no? Like, what?
Okay for my side to do it, as long as your side also did it. I don't think either side should be doing that.
I mean, we all agree that the Abraham Accords were an enormous achievement.
No,
but standing
they
up for human rights, I think, was something that was a bit of a bright spot in the Biden administration.
I mean, to be fair, Joe Biden stood up for human rights until precisely the point he needed the oil prices to come down for the midterm elections, at which point he traveled to Saudi Arabia and kowtowed to the Saudi royal government.
I don't think there were any visits where it wasn't mentioned that they chainsawed Jamal Khashoggi.
I mean, listen, we all remember Joe Biden shaking
right.
Mohammed bin Salman's hand. Although, again, and that's not.
I get it. We haven't even brought this up yet, but it's such an important element of this. The amount of money that the Trump administration, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, et cetera, are making off of this relationship with the Saudis, billions and billions of dollars, is a crucial component of this.
I dare you. Is he going to bring up Hunter Biden? No way would he do that, right?
And why there has been a reorientation
of
where our allies are.
No fucking way.
I personally think that there is a way to get new allies without losing the old ones, and that we have gained so much from the post-World War II global order that makes me heartsick to see the way that we talk about and the way that we deal in policy with folks like the Canadians and even the Europeans and the whole NATO alliance, the everyday, back and forth, we're going to pull out, they need us more than them. They are making plans. It's actually very Trumpian what's going on vis-a-vis the relationship with China, because they're basically saying, we know who China is. The problem is we don't know who the United States is. And I don't think that shifts back just because there's if it's John Ossoff or Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance or whoever in 2028. You can't undo some of these boomerang effects. I mean, we have totally changed the attitude in which people who loved the United States feel about us across Europe and especially in Canada.
I mean, I think we are ignoring the George W. Bush administration, where large swaths of Europe determined that the president of the United States was quite terrible. So,
What was that pivot? Despite the terribleness of George Bush, first of all, they would have a good reason to think that, given everything that happened in the Middle East, number one. But number two, Bush still got all the European countries to join us for the NATO Article 5 trigger to go to Iraq. We still had a massive coalition of countries that were supporting us then, so how could you even make the comparison?
But we actually had managed to get them back, and that
took
a lot of work, and now we've thrown it to the side again.
Well, it sort of depends on get them back on what terms. I mean, again, I think it's a little bit more nuanced than just they're on our side, they're not on our side. I mean, again, there are disagreements with allies. One of the big pushes of the Trump administration. So again,
no Article 5 for Iraq. Didn't we trigger? Oh, was Article 5 only for Afghanistan? We still had a coalition of countries that joined us for Iraq, but
cases where I think, and I've said, where I think the president has pushed too far. So I think that, for example, suggesting that NATO is completely irrelevant, I disagree with that, and I've said that over and over and over. Suggesting that our NATO allies have not been pulling their fair share in terms of their funding of their own defense, I think the president is 100% correct on that. And I think the president also happens to be correct when he is disappointed in our NATO allies for mouthing off consistently about the dangers of an Iranian nuclear program and or terror funding apparatus. And then when the president asks them to help free, for example, the Strait of Hormuz, suddenly it's the high five drowning meme. That seems like not particularly welcome policy on the other side. So I think there are a lot of things that can be done better, but I think that to fail to acknowledge that there is not a coincidence of all interests, even with the allies that I wish we had more coincidence of interest, is that's not, again, undermining alliance. I would prefer to be more specific about what we are seeking from particular countries and what that alliance should look like. And by the way, in none of that do I.
Okay. Let me read this. The Southern Poverty Law Center's stated mission included the dismantling of white supremacy and confronting hate across the country. However, unbeknownst to donors, some of their donated money was being used to fund the leaders and organizers of racist groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Nation, and the National Alliance. The SPLC's paid informants, field sources, engaged in the active promotion of racist groups at the same time that the SPLC was denouncing the same groups on its website. The SPLC also had a field source who was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 Unite the Right event in Charlottesville, Virginia. That field source made racist postings under the supervision of the SPLC and helped coordinate transportation to the event for several attendees. In order to covertly pay its field sources, the SPLC opened bank accounts connected to a series of fictitious entities. The covert nature of the accounts allowed the SPLC to disguise the true nature, source, ownership, and control of the fraudulently obtained donated money. The SPLC paid the field sources. In order to keep the scheme going, the SPLC made a series of false statements related to the operation of the accounts. Is it considered fraud if the source knows that it's like an account that's made to hide the source of the money, though? Like if I tell a friend like, hey, I'm going to send you money and I'm going to pretend it's from your dad, even though it's from me for drugs, and I like name a Wells Fargo account, assuming I'm not defrauding the bank or something, like the name of the account is like Kyle's dad. I don't think that counts as fraud, but okay. At all times relevant to this indictment, the Southern Poverty Law Center, Inc. Also, I really don't like how wishy-washy we're for some of the language here. So, a field source who is a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 Unite the Right event. Like, how many people were in this chat and what was the extent to their participation in the planning? But maybe they'll get into that in the indictment. We'll see. At all times relevant to this indictment, the SPLC was a nonprofit tax-exempt organization headquartered in Montgomery, Alabama, which is located within the Middle District of Alabama. According to its website, the SPLC is a catalyst for racial justice in the South and beyond, working in partnership with communities to dismantle white supremacy, strengthen intersectional movements, and advance the human rights of all people. To carry out this mission, the SPLC relied in part on public and corporate donations. As the SPLC explained on its website, with your help, we're standing up for the most vulnerable people in society, those who have no other champion. We're exposing hate and injustice, fighting discrimination, and providing award-winning anti-bias material free of charge to schools across America. We never take legal fees from our clients, and we accept no government funding. Rather, we rely on the compassion and generosity of people like you. The SPLC website also explained to potential donors that your support powers our work to confront hate, stand up to injustice, and defend our civil and human rights. From the courtroom to the classroom to communities across the country, you can help create a more just and inclusive future for all. These donations were used in part to fund various publications such as the Intelligence Report, Hate Watch, and the Intelligence Project Dispatch. The Intelligence Report was a magazine-like periodical published by the staff of the Southern Poverty Law Center's Intelligence Project and provided free of charge to law enforcement officials, journalists, scholars, and others. Hate Watch was a blog operated by the SPLC that monitors and exposes activities with the hard right in the United States. Blog topics included reporting on hate crimes and events, hate groups and individuals, and lawsuits related to these topics. By providing SPLC with an email address, a person could receive the latest updates from Hate Watch. The Intelligence Project Dispatch was a monthly online publication issued by the Hate Watch staff that monitors and exposes white supremacy and its impact on communities. The header at the top of the publication further explains to readers that the Southern Poverty Law Center works to dismantle white supremacy and public forums. The top banner of the SPLC had a link for public donations. Click to donate. You support the SPLC. Okay. I don't know why we needed all that background, but okay. The SPLC's paid informant network, the Fs. Starting in the 1980s, the SPLC began operating a covert network of informants who were either associated with violent extremist groups, such as the Ku Klux Klan, or who had infiltrated violent extremist groups at the SPLC's direction. These informants were referred to by some individuals within the SPLC as the field sources, or the Fs. Oh my God. Another thing that I just realized that is actually so helpful is, I bet if it's not already listed in the indictment, I bet that this will help, assuming what's said in here to some extent is true, that now the Ku Klux Klan or any of these other groups that are infiltrated by the SPLC, now they know to do a house cleaning, or the DOJ is just telling them directly like who their compromised members are. So like, what a help to them, Jesus. Between at least 2014 and 2023, the SPLC paid their Fs in a clandestine manner. Doing so hid the fact that while the SPLC received donation money under the auspices of the funds would be used to dismantle violent extremist groups, this donation money was instead being used in part by the SPLC to pay leaders and others within these same violent extremist groups. That money was then used for the benefit of the individuals as well as the violent extremist groups. Well, I mean, like if the FBI or the CIA has like an informant or whatever in the government, is that bad if they're paying like a source for information? This is retarded, I think, but okay. Between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC secretly funneled more than $3 million in SPLC funds to Fs who were associated with various violent extremist groups. Examples of Fs who were secretly paid by the SPLC include, but are not limited to, the following. F-37 was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 Unite the Right event in Charlottesville, Virginia, and attended the event at the direction of the SPLC. F-37 made racist postings under the supervision of the SPLC and helped coordinate transportation to the event for several attendees. Does that mean like he drove somebody there, or... Between 2015 and 2023, the SPLC secretly paid F-37 more than $270,000. It's saying secretly paid as well. Do they violate, like, were they supposed to report these payments somewhere? Or, I don't, like, were these, like, bookkeeping? I guess we'll see how they label this at the end, but... F9 was affiliated with the neo-Nazi organization, the National Alliance, and served as an F for the SPLC for more than 20 years. F9's activities included fundraising for the National Alliance. Between 2014 and 2023, the SPLC secretly paid F9 more than $1 million. In 2014, F9 entered the headquarters of a violent extremist group and stole 25 boxes of their documents. F9 coordinated payment for the copying of the materials with a high-level SPLC employee who had knowledge the documents had been stolen. The original stolen materials were returned to the violent extremist group in a second illegal entry by F9. Are you charging him for this crime? What the fuck? What? Thereafter, the high-level SPLC employee utilized the documents in part as the basis for a story published on the SPLC's Hate Watch website and authored by the employee. Another F39, was blamed for the theft and was paid approximately $6,000 by the SPLC to falsely take responsibility for the theft. F Unknown was the imperial wizard of the United Clans of America. In an article published on November 22nd, 2013, the SPLC described the group as a millennial reboot of what was once a serious domestic threat. In its prime, the United Clans of America was responsible for, among other things, the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing in Birmingham, Alabama, which resulted in the deaths of 4 little girls in 1963. Okay. F-27 was reported as an officer in the National Socialist Movement and the Aryan Nations-affiliated Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club between 20... Oh, they're not going to name any actions. They're just going to say who the people are and that they got... I guess that they got paid. Married to an exalted cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan. Jesus. In addition to directly paying leaders and others associated with the same violent extremist groups that the SPLC sought donations ostensibly to dismantle, the SPLC also used Fs to indirectly funnel money to other violent extremist group leaders. This included the SPLC funneling more than $160,000 from a fictitious entity to F11, who then sent funds to extremist groups. I don't know, fictitious entities. To secretly funnel donated money to the Fs, individuals at the SPLC, including a person who would become the chief financial officer and a person who would become the director of the intelligence project, among others, opened a series of bank accounts at Bank 1 and Bank 2 in the name of various fictitious entities, including but not limited to the following: Center Investigative Agency, Fox Photography, Northwest Technologies, Tech Writers Group, Rare Books Warehouse. These fictitious entities were never incorporated, had no bona fide employees, and conducted no actual business. At all times relevant to this indictment, Bank 1 and Bank 2 were insured by the FDIC. Okay, I don't know if that matters. Counts 1 through 6, wire fraud. Intended to devise a scheme and artifice to defraud donors, and attempted to do so and to obtain money and property belonging to donors by materially false and fraudulent pretenses, representations, promises, and omissions. The objective of the scheme and artifice was to obtain money via donations through materially false representations and omissions about what the donated funds would be used for. To carry out this scheme and artifice, the SPLC explicitly sought donations under the auspices that donor money would be used to help dismantle violent extremist groups. I mean, can't you just directly argue that paying like confidential informants or sources or whatever for information about these groups like would count as that? I can understand donors being upset about it, but would this be like a crime? I don't think so. I don't think this counts as like a scam or something. Check out Pierce today. I might watch it later. And the SPLC's solicitations for donations is outlined herein. Donors were not told that some of the donated funds were to be used by the SPLC to pay high-level leaders of violent extremist groups and others, nor were the donors ever told that some of the donated funds would be used for the benefit of the violent extremist groups. So like, is that like a legal requirement here, or? caused interstate wire communications between Alabama and other states through the use of the automated clearinghouse system, which was utilized to transmit an ACH batch transfer from Bank 1 to various bank accounts utilized by the Fs. Okay. False statements to a federally insured bank. I don't know what the bank applications look like. This one might be true. I guess if you tell the bank you have a business, usually they require some kind of like document to show that you have like you're organized as a business. But I don't know what their things look like. Executed sole proprietorship resolution of authority documents with Bank 1. These documents contain false and misleading information regarding the ownership and control of the fictitious entities for which the bank accounts were opened. Employee 1 and others signed to these documents containing false and misleading statements for the benefit of the SPLC. Like, I'd be curious to see exactly what that was. Like, if I wanted to pay somebody through, like, a DGG LLC Shell Corp and I wanted to call it, like, Hassan Industries, like, if I go to the bank and I open a business bank account and I say, I want to call this, like, Hassan Industries and then transfer money to that and then transfer it to somebody else, like, assuming I don't lie on any form or whatever, I don't think that's illegal. I don't think that's wire fraud. Let's see. Certify that I am the sole owner of the above named proprietorship, federal tax ID, blah, 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 engage in business under the trade name of Center Investigative Agency. I certify that I'm the sole owner of the above named proprietorship. That just means that, like, you, like, nobody else is like, I mean, this is just like, I don't know if these statements count as lies or not. Like, if I file, like, if I have a sole proprietorship but my dad is, like, funding me, like, it's still, like, a sole proprietorship or, like, a single owner LLC. Like, that's still true, like, on documents, on paper and everything. This article has an analysis? Fuck. I should have read this before. I'm just curious what similarities this has to past, like, wire fraud cases or anything. Hello?
Hey, what's going on?
You got like 2 minutes because I have a show in like 10 minutes on this. So if you got information for me, give it to me fast. Go.
Okay, so one, these crimes they have incredibly low pleading standards. Like, it's literally just like if you send the money across state lines, they can basically indict you, right? One. Two, this is claiming that there's like, oh, there's all these different entities, but if you actually look in it, it talks about how a person came in, said there's a sole proprietorship that was doing business under the name of these different things, okay? And that they're all under the same EIN. So theoretically, this person might not have registered those DBAs, which could theoretically be some form of fraud there. As far as
I
like,
didn't say that the federal tax ID was all the same. That's weird. Okay. Yeah, I wonder what they're...
you can have as many DBAs as you want, doing business as names as you want. Okay. There might be specific state rules around it or rules for the bank that you need to provide that. But does it rise to the level of this kind of
wire
case?
Fraud?
Yeah. Then also, whenever it was talking about like, oh, they lied to their donors, again, that's technically possible because they might have said like, oh, this is going to go to help poor people get a house, let's say. We're going to help them get a house, but actually they used it to go do this. It might not be illegal for them to pay informants or even, like, right? But like, it depends on how they categorize it when talking to their donors. So like, if I tell you, it's just like, did they tell the donors one thing and did they do something entirely different with it that couldn't possibly be that? It's not like, you see what I'm saying? So it's like, it could just be kind of like, yes, technically they did lie to the donors, and yes, that technically is a crime.
Yeah, I know, but like, yeah, I need to see the statements, right? Like, if somebody says we are going to collect donations and we're going to do it to help, homeless people, and then the FBI investigates, and it's like, actually, 95% of your donations went to this guy who is a billionaire, but like the money was paid to him to set up like homeless feeding houses or whatever. Like, I guess it did go to a billionaire, but I mean, like, it was still used to help homeless people. Like, does this count as a lie or not? Like, like this feels like very, like, I think you would need like a really clear line of connection if we're talking about crimes, right? Like, if they said some shit like, none of our money that touches our hands will ever go to funding any type of extremist person or whatever else, then like, sure, maybe it's at the level of fraud. I don't know, but
it's also hard. Like, we get into an area where like this is a case that's like ripe for jury nullification as well, because it's just like, yes, this is not like, this is all outside the law, but also like we can very clearly see like why they were doing it, and it's kind of this thing where it's like, well, they paid people that were high up in great groups that are racist. And it's like, yeah, to help prevent those groups from doing harm. Like, do I care? Do I want them to give money to those people? No, but I'd rather them pay money to those people and then prevent harm than keep the money in the SPLC, right? Like
and it's also
like
very annoying because the presentation of this, and obviously the way that every conservative is running with it, and obviously the way they knew they were going to run with it is, oh, the SPLC is the one paying all these organizations to exist, and they're paying for all of these events to happen. So all of these like extremist right-wing movements are solo funded by the SPLC, who's like falsely causing all of these like Charlottesville riots and everything else, Yeah.
Right. Also, which like if you look at it, it's for like an insignificant amount of money. Like if you understand any of this, this is especially when it comes to like wire fraud and things like that. This is basically over the course of 10 years, an insignificant. They're paying these people like $30K a year on average.
Some of them, but some of them not even that much. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like the idea that this is kind of a huge scandal is stupid, and it's also kind of a thing where like. Whenever you're bringing cases on this kind of wire fraud and things like this, these crimes are things that are like so minor that they're usually used
accessory crimes. You're stacking them onto like another like huge thing. Yeah.
And it's a way that you can maybe pull federal jurisdiction, or maybe you can make sure that you are able to access different crimes in different areas. But like to only bring it based on this, and then for it to be connected to groups that are like hate groups that commit crimes, and then you can't connect them to any of those crimes is actually kind of silly, right? It's like, look, we can connect, like if I could connect you to Hamas through wire fraud, but then not connect you to any of the like bombings or killings that Hamas does, it's kind of like, well, I don't really know how much I actually care about this now. You're just talking about him giving this. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I just want to go over those few small things. I know it's kind of a limited document just because of how low the pleading standards are. And that kind of makes it hard to fight against in some ways, but also it makes it hard for them to make really big claims unless you let them take it to like the extreme. So that's all. Sure. Is there anything in here specifically you didn't understand or had a question about?
I'm just curious if there's any like parallel or analog for this. If like, well, one, I'm curious if any of this counts as fraud to like the donors of the SPLC, which is, I don't know if that's required for this to be considered wire fraud. If that's what they're resting some of this on, that they were misrepresenting to donors, that that's where part of the fraudulent thing comes from?
The wire fraud is almost like, I think that they've got the donors thing in there. I think it would be hard for them, unless we see the exact statements.
Because to do the fraud here, it's the objective of the scheme and artifice was to obtain money via donations through materially false representations and omissions about what the donated funds would be used for.
Right.
Yeah.
But I thought that was the donated fraud. I thought the wire fraud was specifically around the bank fraud of saying these entities exist.
I think that might be a part of it, but this was for the counts 1 through 6 for wire fraud. This was listed as like the purpose of the scheme. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then that might be like a 501c3 specific donation wire fraud type of thing, right? Because I have not dealt with donor fraud regarding.
I understand how you could say that statement, but my guess is that's not the case, because if that was, they would have some C3 explicit specific language in here, and they literally don't. They're just saying that they lied about using the money to dismantle violent extremist groups, when like we all agree that paying a source.
I just mean in the sense of like taking donations under a false, like when I'm representing a business, that business isn't receiving donations. So I'm not really, I've never engaged with that aspect of wire fraud.
No, but I'm just saying that I feel like if it was something that was unique to like a 501c3, that language, I feel like it would be in the indictment. Yeah.
And I think you're right, though, that like that being the fraudulent thing to pull it in. They're saying like, oh, you lied on the donations, because they can't find lies elsewhere other than like in that area with the bank. So yeah, like it's really hard, and it's also I think it's one of these things where it's like, if you wanted to find wire fraud and this kind of stuff in any other kind of organization that's not like that's like appears as liberal, it would be very easy to present a ton of cases that have existed even in very, very, very recent history of any number of organizations that have been charged with this kind of thing. So for them to like make it a big national story is just, it's very clearly chaff. And I know we all know that, but it's important to point out that, hey, this is just chaff. They're trying to distract, that the new attorney general is an inept idiot that won't release the Epstein files. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, good luck in your talk.
All right. I love you, buddy. Be careful.
Love you too. Bye.
All right. I'll be back in, I think, about an hour and a half, because I can't stream these, so I'll be back. Be careful. And then tonight we have a talk with Sid from Twitter, which should be fun. Don't die.